Hello everyone, my name is Rebecca and I'm officially back from maternity leave. As many of you know, for the past 8 weeks I've been posting videos that were pre-made to go up. That way I was able to rest and adjust to life with the new baby. And now that I have posted all those pre-made videos, it is time for me to come back. In this video, I'll be showing you art that I made while on maternity leave, while also answering your questions and talking about what the past 2 months have been like. So a bit of a disclaimer, a lot of the art in this video is going to be different from my usual, and this is mostly because I was feeling very different. Postpartum is a bit of a wild ride. There's a lot of changes, and all of those changes can be really hard. And so the art I was making was reflecting that. We may dive deeper into all of that later in the video. So for some reason, I really didn't want to draw faces. I'm not totally sure why, I just didn't really want to draw them. And so this gave some interesting results for these pieces. Also, all of the art was created on my iPad. I've been trying to use my iPad a bit more to see if I want to upgrade to a new iPad to do my work on or not. Also, the iPad is easier to work with since I can take it anywhere in the house to where baby is. This first picture was actually based on a wig picture I saw on Pinterest. The hair looked really pretty, so I wanted to draw it, but it kind of morphed into this picture that had more meaning to it. As a new mom, many people kept saying what an honor it was to be a mom and to care for a new life, and it is a great honor, but at the time the honor felt very heavy, so the crown is kind of representing the heavy honor I was feeling, if that makes sense. This next piece is of a flower head person. The person is blooming, but the petals are falling off and they are trying to hold things together. For this one, I actually recorded the screen so you can see the process more in depth. So like I mentioned, I will be answering viewer questions in this video, so let's start answering some of those questions. How long did it take? I think I remember you saying something about a C-section. How did it go? So it turned out that I actually didn't have a C-section, even though that was the plan. In case you don't know, I was originally going to be induced because a blood clot formed in my leg at the start of my pregnancy. So I was on blood thinners the entire pregnancy, and I'm actually still on blood thinners. The doctors wanted to induce me so that I could go off the blood thinners 24 hours before giving birth to reduce risks. And then once the baby was born, I would go back on the blood thinners. However, we learned pretty late into my pregnancy that our son had a stroke and that damage was done to his brain. The doctor said I could still go with being induced, but also said it may be safer to do a C-section, so we opted for a C-section. However, a week before the C-section date, I woke up to some strong contractions and found that my water had broke. And since I was going into labor naturally, I thought I would try to give birth, not via C-section. And thankfully the birth did go very smoothly. The time from my water breaking to him being born was about 11 hours. But I only spent about 15 minutes pushing, so that was nice. So yeah, I am super thankful that I was able to birth him naturally. I've heard that recovering from a C-section is not easy, and so I was glad I could avoid that. What was labor like? Is it as painful as they say it is? At first, labor wasn't too bad. I would get some decently strong contractions, but once they passed, I felt totally normal. I remember I was in the hospital like eating snacks, and then a strong contraction would come, and then once it was done I would go back to eating my snacks. However, as things progressed to active labor, things did get a lot more intense. The baby had his back towards my back, so this was causing me to have a good amount of back pain while in labor. And giving birth and the actual pushing part was super painful. And I would say that it is as painful as they say it is. Because the blood thinners were still in my system, I was unable to get an epidural. However, the fact that the epidural just wasn't an option was a little bit helpful because it gave me the mindset that I just had to get through the birth. There was kind of no way out of it or no way to make the pain go away, so I just had to power through. That being said, giving birth is painful, but because you know what's causing the pain, it's not super duper scary. Don't get me wrong, it is intimidating, and I did feel kind of scared when it was time to push. But like if I was experiencing labor pain but didn't know why, it would be super freaky and probably feel even more painful. But because I do know what's going on, it's not as bad comparatively. I hope that makes sense. How did you feel when you saw the baby for the first time? It was kind of a surreal experience because you're in a ton of pain, but then the baby comes out and all of the pain stops, and all of a sudden the baby is on you, and you're seeing this little human that you've like kind of known for many months, but you haven't really seen them, and now you're seeing them, and it's just kind of crazy. It was a rush of emotions that I can't really put into words, but I'll always remember that moment. I remember you saying that the baby has a clubbed foot. How is the correction process going? Yeah, so at around 20 weeks, it was found on ultrasound that the baby seemed to have a clubbed foot, and they did see it again on another ultrasound. But after that, mini manga was getting pretty big, so they were never able to get another good look at his foot because it was tucked under his bottom. And it turns out that mini manga does not have a clubbed foot. I actually didn't notice it until my mom pointed it out, and it was a very pleasant surprise. The kind of funny part is that he does turn his foot sometimes and it will look like it's clubbed, especially when he stretches. However, it doesn't stay like that, it goes back to normal. We were super thankful that he does not have to go through the correction process because it was a very long process. So yeah, no clubbed foot. Does the baby look more like dad or mom? The first thing the nurse said to me after they had cleaned up mini manga was, he looks a lot like his dad, and he definitely does. He also has a ton of hair just like his dad did as a baby. I've gone back and forth on if I'll show the baby at all. Obviously, I want to protect my son, but at the same time, I do want you all to see him. And after discussing it with my husband, I've decided I'm okay with showing you one picture of him. He's still a baby, so his looks will change a lot as he grows. So yeah, here's a picture of him. He's my little peanut. Is recovery going well? How is the baby doing? My recovery overall has been very smooth. Right after having the baby was rough, especially since he had to stay in the NICU, and the NICU did not have comfy furniture or a comfy place for me to sleep. It was a hard rubbery couch, which was extremely uncomfortable to sleep on when you are recovering from giving birth. So like I said, mini manga had a stroke before he was born, and this put him at risk for seizures, especially when he was in the very early stages of life. And there would possibly also be other complications. Because of all of this, we decided with the doctors that he would be admitted to the neonatal intensive care unit after he was born. And I am really glad we made that decision. It gave him the care that he needed, and I do feel like it was the best for him. But those 2 weeks in the NICU were really, really hard, especially since I was recovering. I could probably fill a whole video just talking about that experience. But long story short, it was not easy and made recovery a bit harder, not only physically but also mentally. But we eventually got to take him home, and that was such a happy day. And he has been doing very well. He is growing, eating, and doing all of the things he's supposed to be doing. He even rolled over the other day, which made me super excited. We won't really know how the stroke is affecting him until he gets older and is trying to use higher brain function. Right now, his brain is using a different part to control all of his moving, but as he gets older, it's going to try to use the other parts of his brain, and those parts are damaged. So we kind of have to wait and see how his brain will adapt to having parts of it that are damaged. I'm hoping for the best, but also mentally preparing for what the doctors have warned us about. Also, I want to say thank you so much to all of you for all of the supportive comments and for your thoughts and prayers. They have been super appreciated, and I hope you'll continue to support us as mini manga grows. He will definitely need your continued thoughts and prayers. So yeah, overall my recovery has been smooth. I'm feeling much more like myself now. I can sit in my office chair and be much more comfortable. And mini manga is doing all the things he's supposed to be doing. What has been the hardest part about motherhood for you? So far, the hardest part is definitely the lack of sleep. Mini manga is getting better at sleeping at night, and my body is starting to get used to less sleep. But yeah, some days are really hard because I'm just so tired. How are you holding up? I'm doing better than I was for sure. I think it's easy to tell by the art that I was making that I wasn't feeling the greatest mentally. After the NICU stay, I was really burnt out and my brain really wanted life to go back to like normal. But of course it can't go back to what normal was because there's a baby now. So we had to find our new normal. It's taken time, but we are getting there. Mini, Manga, and I are starting to have our own little daily routine that we do. And my hormones are probably starting to level out a little bit more, so I'm feeling happier now. I still have down days where I cry really easily, but things are improving for sure. How do you manage to balance work, baby, your relationships, and your personal identity? Managing and balancing all of those things is definitely something I'm learning to do. It is interesting because I would often hear new moms talk about how they would have a sort of identity crisis after having a baby, and I always thought that wouldn't really happen to me, but it definitely did. I didn't feel like drawing. The last thing I wanted to do was work on my webcomic. I felt like it would be impossible for me to work on videos while also taking care of the baby. I was questioning my priorities and what I wanted out of life. I was questioning why I draw and what the point of it was. And can I just say, these are things you should not be trying to figure out when you are postpartum. The biggest thing that was making me question my identity was art and YouTube. Art and YouTube took up so much space in my life, and for those first handful of weeks after the birth, they took up no space in my life. And the drastic change plus major sleep deprivation made me feel not like me. Eventually, I started to kind of force myself to draw, and with these drawings, I was slowly getting back that feeling of wanting to draw. I kept these drawings very low pressure and also tried to vent out my emotions through them, and I found them to be very therapeutic. Also, to the fans of my webcomic, don't worry, I have felt like working on it again. I kind of work on it whenever I get the chance to. I actually only have a couple more pages to do for the most current chapter, so I'm excited about that. What are your goals/plans for this channel? So because I am a mom now, this does mean less time for work, especially since Mini Manga needs me more now than he ever will in his life. So for the foreseeable future, I'm going to have to cut down to posting once every other week. I feel like right now that's all I'll be able to handle. Along with the schedule change, we may also see a bit of a content change. With my videos, there was usually a balance of videos that were more for me and others that were more for the audience or the YouTube algorithm. However, now that I have less time for art and will be posting less often, I feel like I want to make more videos that are more for myself or are more about projects that I want to work on. I'm not sure what this means for the kind of content I'll be making. I just know I want it to be more for me. I also feel like I may want to try to branch out a little bit. While nursing Mini Manga or trying to get him to take a nap, I've been watching videos on game development and game engines, and I feel like it would be a fun thing to try out and maybe share the process for along the way. But we will see if I end up doing that. So I feel like this video has taken a kind of serious turn, so before we end, how about we answer some simple and lighthearted questions? Is your son chubby? Yes, he is very chubby. He's going through his chunky phase at the moment. He has very chubby cheeks and a very big belly. It's really cute. Is he being good to you and your husband so far, or is he fussy? Also, how do your siblings feel about being uncles and aunties? Being that Mini Manga is currently only 8 weeks old, he is pretty fussy. He makes it very well known when he is uncomfy or doesn't like something. That being said, he loves going for walks and car rides, and so that's very helpful. Whenever he's being really fussy, and if it's nice outside, I take him for a walk, and that always calms him down. He also really likes it when I wash his hair. It's really cute. My siblings are all very happy and excited about being aunts and uncles. Mini Manga is very popular among my siblings. Is it harder to name the baby because you named so many OCs? It actually was. I would be going through name lists and I would see a name like Carson and I would think, oh, I like that name. And then I'd be like, of course I do. I have an OC with that name. For the most part, when we were picking names, I tried to avoid names that my OCs had. However, the name Owen did make it into our top 10 names. It was kind of funny because I spent hours upon hours looking at baby names, making lists, and looking up the meanings of the names. But then one night my husband just suggested a random name that he really liked, and that was the one we went with. I spent hours trying to think of a name, and my husband's just like, oh, how about that name? Also, it's probably obvious, but we are keeping the name private. hence why I keep calling him Mini Manga. What part of being a mom and raising a child are you looking forward to the most? Right now, what I'm looking forward to the most is Mini Manga smiling and giggling. I'm so excited for him to smile at me. Right now, he only smiles in his sleep and it is really cute, but I am super excited for him to actually smile like at me. It'll be fun when there is more two-way interaction between us. I'm also super excited for him to be big enough that I can take him to the park. There's a park super close to where we live and I've always thought about being able to take him to it. And so I'm excited for that. Well, thank you all so much for your questions. Those are all the ones we have time for. I'm sorry I could not answer all of them. Here is all of the art that was featured in this video. I do find it funny that we have all of these more kind of darker or gritty pieces. And then we just have a random chibi Hatsune Miku. I think we can tell with which piece I was starting to feel better. Before we end, I want to say a huge thank you to my wonderful YouTube members and Patreon patrons for their support. It means so much to me. And thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week in my next video. Bye!